Good evening, families. I'm just going to do a quick recording for some of the families that missed our meeting today, which is totally understandable. And maybe if any of you zoned out and you didn't hear everything. First of all, thank you for those of you who were able to come. It was nice seeing all of your faces. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is sharing. Now, sharing is not your typical kind of sharing where the students get to bring one of their prized possessions or toys and just talk about it. It's definitely super structured, and there's two parts to this. Number one, they do get a grade on speaking and listening in first grade. It will go into their grade book. So it's kind of like a speech that they will do. Number two, the topics and the structure that we ask them to follow follows the outline of writing a 5-sentence paragraph, which is also what they get assessed on in first grade. So looking at the sharing, there's 4 different topics. There's narrative, informational opinion, and a story retell. You have this paper in the back of your online journal or online folder that the students have. Specifically, I want to look at this back page. And it's in your journal, like I said. And this has the outline of what we want them to say for every sentence for narrative, informational, opinion, and retelling. And you can see here, for example, narrative, it's going to have 5 sentences that they will need to include in their speech or their sharing. It'll have a topic sentence, boys and girls, today I would like to share about, and they'll state the topic first, second, third, and then clearly. Those would be the beginning of the other sentences, or they can say first, next, finally, and their conclusion will be clearly. And you can see for each type of writing that they'll have different transition words. And we do need you to follow these transition words for each type of writing. So what will happen is I will post the topic of this week's sharing, and you'll be able to see, oh, it's narrative, and this is the topic. And so you'll follow the narrative transition words. Or, oh, it's informational this week, and you'll follow these transition words for informational. And it'll rotate through, so you'll kind of see the procedure of it. These are the topics for October, and like I said, I'm going to post them in the daily classwork. It'll say sharing, and it'll take you to a page, and it'll have whether it's informational, narrative, opinion, and it'll have the topic. And all I want you to do is just practice each day. And so you can see week 1 is a personal narrative about playing. Tell how you've played something with someone. This could be a board game, an outdoor activity. So anyway, it gives you examples of what they can talk about. You'll practice this speech or this sharing every day. And then on Friday, there will be a separate activity that comes out, which will ask them to record themselves doing their sharing. Now, when they do sharing, what we do here in class is we put down these cards that have feet on them. And the feet, and you can see because they stand on or behind each card. And you can see the first card is in green, and it says, today I'd like to teach you about. And then they move over, and they stand next to the next one. It says, I found out, and they say what they found out about camels or whatever it is. I know. I learned. And then clearly I know many things about camels. And you can see this girl in this video is standing behind the cards. Then she moves over when she says her next sentence.
I know camels store food in its hump. I learned camels can live 6 months without food or water. I know many things about camels.
So anyway, you can see specifically with the cards, it kind of just helps them with that gross motor where they're remembering the different steps because their body is actually stepping through the different steps of their speech. So like I said, somebody asked about getting these printed out. So there's 2 things you can do. I'm going to try to scan them and send them to you, although mine are in color. So I don't know how well that's going to transfer over. But honestly, you could really just do a sticky note with feet on it, and just these aren't even full sentences. You don't want to write down their full sentence because you don't want them to be reading it. You want them to have this memorized, but there's just little clues on there, like I found out, or it might say first or next or last. And so just writing the clues on a paper and putting it on the ground would be super helpful. And the reason that we really want to make sure that you practice this every single day is because when we go to writing out a 5-sentence paragraph, the kids are so funny. They're always like, oh my goodness, this is so easy to write 5 sentences because it's just like sharing. And I'm like, I know. That's why we practice it all the time. So really, really, really important to practice it every single day until they can say it, recite it to the camera with no help and no clues. So that's sharing. If you have any questions about sharing, please email me or text me, especially in October when it comes out. It might be a little bit confusing at first, but I promise you as we go through it, you're going to see that it rotates through and that you'll be able to predict, like halfway through the school year, if I put the wrong cards out, the kids are like, no, it's informational, that you have the wrong transition words. So they start to memorize what the transition words are for each topic. The next thing I wanted to talk about is iReady. I'm sure that you have heard about iReady coming out. Our days to do the iReady testing are Tuesday and Wednesday, the 29th and 30th. We will be using iReady in place of reading groups that day, on both of those days, because they are doing the reading test. This is not graded. I'm not going to be putting anything into their grade book. However, it is very, very important that they do their best on it. And it is expected that they get about 50% of the answers wrong. And the thing with this is that it's really trying to pinpoint where your student is within reading. And so please, please do not help them with anything on this test. Let them get it wrong, even if it seems like they're getting a bunch of things wrong, because they're going to get at least half of it wrong. Not only is this going to assign activities right at their level, right at where their next steps are, but also it gives me reports on what the next thing is for your child. So if you're helping them through this, then be prepared to help them through the rest of iReady for the rest of the year, because we can't reset it. And so if they're performing above their level because you're helping them during the initial assessment, then it's going to place them maybe second or third grade level or something like that, and they're going to have to be working at that level for the rest of the school year, and it's going to be super frustrating for them. So we really want to make sure that they're doing it all on their own. You can just encourage them, but please don't help them with anything on the test. The next thing is our live meeting expectations, and really just expectations in general. I joke because I was telling all the first grade teachers, I was like, gosh, my class is like really awesome with their expectations online and with how they show up on time and getting all their work done. I was like, they're pretty awesome. I know the parents work really, really hard. I would say the only couple of things that I would like to just remind everybody of are, number one, make sure that they're eating during their breaks, not during their small group reading or math group. That includes candy and gum. And then the other thing is they really do need to have a table that they're sitting at. It could be a desk, it could be a table away from brothers and sisters and other distractions. I would say for the most part, everyone's got a table. Every once in a while, some of my friends like to pick up their iPad and walk all around, and that gets a little bit crazy on the video. So just making sure everyone's at a table, especially for small groups, because they do need to be able to write. So they need to have that hard surface. Sitting on the couch just doesn't quite work for a lot of that. The other thing I want to talk about with expectations is some of the work that I have coming in is like really, really, really amazing. Like not one single misspelled word. No one's forgetting a capital, a period, or anything. So I feel like maybe I don't have to teach writing anymore, although I know that that's not true. So what I'm asking is, please tone back a little bit on helping them with their writing. If they aren't remembering to put a period every single time, I need to know that, because then I'll be working on periods and capitals with them. I would use the online resource folder. Have them look at the sight words. If they want to copy the sight words right down from the sight word page, that's a great resource for them. Same with the phonics page. I was saying in the meeting how I was helping somebody with their writing the other day, and when it gets to harder words that are above first grade level, I want to see them spell it wrong. I want to see them trying to sound out the sounds, and maybe it's not correct, but it makes sense. So we were writing the word house the other day. So when we chunked out the sounds, we got and that student knew what that word, what that sound was, and then we had ow. So then we went and looked at our phonics page in our notebook here, or our folder, and we see the cow. And you can see that there's two choices that say ow. OW says ow, and OU says ow. And so that student in particular just happened to pick OW, and that's appropriate. It really is. OW does say ow. Now it doesn't in the word house, but that's okay because this is first grade spelling. Same with that silent E on the end. That student in particular did not know to put the E on the end, so they spelled house HOWS. In first grade, that spells house. Now, I know it's not correct, but it makes sense. And that's the kind of writing that I want to see, specifically because once they start transitioning back into the classroom, whether it be this year, in second grade, whenever it is, their teacher or we're not going to be able to sit there and tell them every single word that's misspelled. They're going to have to be able to figure it out on their own, using their clues, using the phonics pages, sounding it out on their own. And sometimes it'll be correct and sometimes it won't. As long as it makes sense, then that's first grade spelling. Now, obviously, we want our sight words spelled correctly. Obviously, if it's a short word where they can sound out each letter, you'll definitely want that spelled correctly. So help them through that. Don't tell them how to spell that. Help them through that. But on some of those harder words, open up that phonics page and work on it together. But like I said, they're going to have those strategies on their own. Because when they're in school, they're not going to have someone next to them telling them every single letter of how to spell every single word. So please, please let them turn it in to me with misspelled words. That way I know what our next steps are. Like I said, if everyone's forgetting a period, then I know exactly what we need to be doing in our next writing lesson. Right now, doesn't look like I need to teach very much for writing because so many things are spelled perfectly. Same thing goes for our reading small groups and our math small groups. Honestly, you can kind of help them get their supplies, make sure they have everything, and go take a break. Go have a cup of coffee. I can sit there with the kids and help them through it. That's how it would be if we were in class. And so they really don't need you sitting there and helping them and telling them what the next word is. If they're struggling on reading, I will help them through, how to sound out the word and what good strategies readers do and things like that. I don't mind if you sit there and just so you can kind of see what strategies I'm suggesting and how we're working through stories. But if they turn to you to ask for help, you might just say, ask your teacher, or raise your hand, or, sound it out, or whatever I'm saying. But please don't help them with the sounds and with the words. Same thing with math. We really want the kids to be able to have a tool belt full of strategies that they can do on their own. And we don't want one of those strategies to be turn to mom and dad for the answer. Hopefully that makes sense. I appreciate all the hard work that you're doing. However, we really want them to be able to figure it out on their own. The last thing I want to talk about is tomorrow, Tuesday, we are moving to Zoom. I am hoping that it's not going to give us a bunch of trouble. I'm hoping that it's going to solve a lot of problems. What that means for you is not a whole lot. You will just click on the link like you normally do for our morning meetings. Same thing for our math groups, reading groups. The links should all be there. Should, keyword. Pretty sure I changed all the links over. If not, it's all the same link anyway, just like how I normally do. So no matter what you click on, the morning meeting or math groups or reading groups, it's all going to be the same link. Here's the only difference, and you'll probably have to have a conversation with your student about this, is that on Zoom there's a waiting room. So if they log in a little bit early, or maybe it's the wrong time and it's not really their reading group, they're going to be in a waiting room, and I'm going to admit people in when it's time. So if it's not even time for their group, I'm not going to admit them in. Or if they're a little bit early, they need to just sit and wait in there. So maybe just talk to them about how When they click on the link, it'll have a pop-up that comes up that says Miss Grakowski will admit you in when it's time or something like that. Just have them sit and wait. Make sure they have all their supplies ready to go. And so that'll be tomorrow. And that's another thing. It would be a good idea to have the kids start getting their own supplies ready, packing their own backpack to go to the babysitter's house or to go to preschool or whatever it is. Because in class, I'm not walking around pulling their textbooks out of their desks for them. That's something that they have to find on their own. So helping them starting to be more independent and getting all of their supplies for each day would be a great thing to start working on. So here's the supplies. I want to talk to you about science today. We had a lot of people that didn't know how to get the string for science. I promise you, I'm not going to assign you anything for science that you don't already have the supplies in your science bag. So please check there first. Unless I missed something, they should all be in there. And then also whiteboards. If you don't have a whiteboard yet, it might be something you want to look into. I heard that the Dollar Tree has whiteboards. If not, you can always use, I've had some kids take one of the papers out of their online learning folder and turn it around so it's a blank piece of paper and slide it back in their sheet protector, and then they can write on that. Or you can just go get a sheet protector, but it really is just much quicker to have everyone using a dry erase board and a marker so they can just erase it and go on to the next thing, especially since a lot of the kids write really big, and so they're doing like one equation on a whole sheet of paper, and they're having to get multiple sheets of paper in order to get through the whole small group. So if you could somehow do a whiteboard, or like I said, put a blank sheet of paper in the online learning folder and they can just use that as a whiteboard, that would be great. So other than that, I feel like we communicate all the time. You can always email me or text me if you have any questions on any of the things that I said tonight, or anything that comes out in the next couple of weeks regarding iReady or sharing or going to Zoom. Please just text me if you have any problems or questions. Thank you so much for watching my video, and we'll see you guys tomorrow at our new Zoom meeting.